Okay, we're live.
Brilliant. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. It's our Thursday podcast again.
Seems to come round fast. Tuesday and Thursday seems to get quicker and quicker for me.
Everything's going fast. Absolutely everything. Which is really good because it just shows how busy we all are, really. Lots going on with the Academy, lots happening. Thursdays, we always try and bring one of our practitioners on. But unfortunately, it's just been a bit of a mix-up with times. And that will then be rescheduled for another time. But importantly, at the moment, the practitioners that we were going to speak to are out having fun and doing good life experiences. So that's no issue whatsoever. So we've changed it for today. Today, we're going to have a little chat about Ouija boards. Something that I can say better than I can spell it. But Ouija boards are a big thing, really, because it comes up in my clearings fairly regularly, and I'm going to guess, and it comes up. We haven't even had time to discuss this because we were literally going to do something else. But Ouija boards is something that comes up very, very regularly for me.
Yeah, it does. Well, we see it like every week. At least lots of people, and quite a few people that we have as repeat clients had. Well, certainly one client we had basically went to a kind of spiritual, evening of fun and entertainment, basically when a Ouija board was being used, and from that kind of session, then had a kind of entity attachment that basically caused so many problems in his life. He ended up losing his job, being sectioned for a bit. So just going to a kind of a spiritual event where a Ouija board was being used ended up being quite a traumatic experience for this particular client. So they are a big problem, I think, really. But like everything from our perspective, I mean, Ouija board is basically, people call it the talking board. So it's just a board with a planchette that basically moves around, and it's obviously inscribed with numbers and letters. So effectively, you kind of invite a spirit in, or you invite something in that you don't know generally to kind of talk to you and communicate using the board. So the kind of planchette moves around and it spells out words, that kind of thing, and you can ask it questions. So it kind of sounds like good fun, and probably is good fun some of the time, like all things really, but like all kind of spiritual tools.
Have you ever done one? Have you done one?
No.
Yeah.
I did do a piece of string once. I had a friend actually turned up one night and we'd had a few drinks, and he took a shoelace out of my shoe actually and basically tied a pencil around it, so I was holding it like a dowsing tool. And then we did
Used as pendulum.
Yeah, we did the "is anyone there" type thing. And then basically the room went freezing cold.
And that's the problem.
We shit ourselves and we dropped the pencil and put my shoelace back and didn't do anything from there on in. Yeah. But that was 20 odd years ago. So yeah.
So I've done one as well when I was young, experimenting probably in the same way that a lot of young people do, or a lot of people do, is that you hear about a Ouija board, you don't know what you're doing, and you give it a go. And I guess when you ask the simple question, is there anything there, or is there anyone there, you don't know who you're particularly requesting the energy from. And like I say on my psychic protection courses, when you open yourself up to the universe, it's like opening yourself up to the internet. We all have computers. The vast majority of information and sites that you connect to on the internet are absolutely wonderful and no problems at all. But we all know that there's sites out there. We all know there's scammers out there. We all know that there's, intentions out there to come in and take advantage of you as well. So, it is important that you have your home security on your PC and laptop before you go on the internet, and opening yourself up to the universe is exactly the same. But I mean, certainly to me, the Ouija board, communication board, talking board, however you call it, it is just a spiritual tool for communication, and one that is safe. But you have to know what you're doing. Like all of this work, if you're learning and progressing, you have to know what you're doing. You have to sit with people that have experienced. And in my own opinion, you have to work with protection and intention every single time. Or else you are opening yourself up to energies that can make a difference to your household that you don't particularly like.
especially malevolent ones. This is the thing, isn't it? Because as Johnny was saying, really, I mean, this is the thing with all kind of spiritual tools, really, whether it's dowsing rods, Ouija boards, whatever tool you use. If you don't set the intention to start with, then you kind of are at the luck of the draw, really. Will you connect to something good and positive that will come in and talk to you and have some fun? Or do you connect to some malevolent imposter that's basically going to kind of make your day quite difficult and obviously pretend to be other things? You have these imposter spirits, basically, or entities that obviously are going to play with you and potentially get you to give your permission for them to connect to you and with you. And this, of course, is the big problem, because it's one thing communicating to any spirit that you can't see or any entity that you can't see, but that's just a communication, whether it's telepathic or using a tool like a Ouija board. But as soon as you give your permission for them to connect to you, which is what they'll be after, then now you've just entered into like the next phase of that development, really. And of course, that entity or spirit is then going to effectively follow you around, connect to your energy, and start to use your energy in a generally a negative way.
With your permission.
Yeah, and I guess that's the problem, isn't it? Is that you've basically given your permission for something to connect to you, because you kind of wouldn't walk into a shopping centre and basically speak to people you don't know or talk to people you don't know and then give them permission to kind of follow you home and come into your house, because you think, well, I don't know who this person is, I don't trust them. And it's the same from a spiritual perspective, but worse, of course, because you can't see them following you around and attaching to you. And that's the big problem, I think, with things like Ouija boards, is that used with the right intention, as you said, they can be quite positive and probably quite good fun. But most people using them, especially youngsters, don't actually understand the gravity of the situation and the complexities of what they're entering into. And that, of course, leaves them open to this malevolent connection to entities and things that are going to kind of make your life quite difficult.
And it does. And I think that's the thing. I mean, certainly Hollywood kind of picks on Ouija boards quite regularly. Regularly you see Ouija boards and those sort of communication tools in films and another type of film and documentaries. And it does then lead people to go in and experiment and play with it. And, these spiritual tools are not playthings. Certainly in the work that we do, we see that they're not playthings in any way. And in fact, one of the cases that I do talk about fairly often when I'm asked about what sort of heavy cases that I've worked before, the one that does spring to mind is one that was created because of someone experimenting with a Ouija board. And the case there was, it was a Sunday morning and I got a phone call from a mother, and the mother was very distressed. The mother was in tears talking to me, asking for help. And basically her daughter, who was, I think, 21, or she was either 21 or 23, but certainly early 20s. And a few days previously, she'd done the Ouija board at a party. And since then, she was speaking in different tongue, and she was shouting, swearing, and rocking uncontrollably in the chair downstairs. Couldn't sleep, couldn't do anything. They'd had the local spiritual church out to come and see them. And the people that saw the daughter basically said that she needs an exorcism as soon as possible, and there's nothing that they could do that would help her. So this is how she found sort of my website, by looking for sort of spirit release and that sort of thing. So, I mean, from our point of view, this is what we do. So I tried to calm the mother down as much as possible and said that I'd work it that day for her. And literally I got a phone call back 2 hours later from a very appreciative mother, because in her words, she has her daughter back and she didn't know where her daughter had gone. And I think this is the thing, people that come into this that don't know what they're doing, and even the people that come into this with a little bit of knowledge and then pretend to know a little bit more, can be very dangerous. They can open up portals, they can up gateways and doorways, and they don't know what they're opening the doorway to. And again, mate, we've seen that time and time again. It's a real thing in our work, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think it is one of those things, isn't it? Again, the range of symptoms, as you described quite well, really. So people that use things like Ouija boards and pendulums, dowsing tools to get into problems. The problems that come from that, the symptoms would be things like kind of severe anxiety, paranoia, depression, anger, rage, all of the kind of most negative emotions generally, which kind of would point to the fact there's something attached that's obviously encouraging that type of thought and feeling an emotional status. So anything that's negative. So if you know someone that's used a Ouija board and their personality is changed afterwards, then you can more or less probably guarantee there's something connected to them that isn't particularly good, that needs to be cleared and removed, basically. And obviously, if you've got children, or as you say, not children, but even adults, young teenagers tend to be the kind of age group of people that are likely to play with Ouija boards, because as you say, Hollywood have kind of made it fun, and you can buy a Ouija board for $20 or something.
You can make them, can't you?
You can make one out of a piece of string and a pencil, mate. And that's the whole thing, is that, again, if you don't know what you're doing, you're entering into something that should be fun, or you think would be fun. It's going to take you down a very kind of difficult and quite dangerous path, really. And the problem is, people that are using Ouija boards in that way don't have spiritual training either. So most people have got no idea that they need to protect themselves before they do it, and check afterwards that they haven't picked something up. And that's, like you say, without the conversations around opening doorways, portals, all that kind of stuff that goes with it as well, really. So I guess from our advice perspective, it's don't touch it unless you know what you're doing with it, really.
And if you do know what you're doing with it, you're probably going to get some good communication and work it just like any other spiritual tool, just like working cards, just like working cards or connecting spiritually in any other way. Now, there's very safe ways of working, and this is what we try and promote and try and educate in that sense, really. But I think the thing is that if you don't know what you're doing, don't do it. Go with someone that does know what they're doing. They're very competent and very confident in what they're doing. It's a huge universe out there, and we'd rather talk to people on the podcast than talk to them as a client, and that's the big difference, really. Yeah,
I guess you've got the other side of the conversation, where again, people that have been using Ouija boards can potentially have spirits connected to the boards. So if you inherit a board or you buy a second-hand board,
definitely,
you don't know what it's been used to do. You don't know what's with it, effectively, kind of. So if you come home from the kind of antique shop with a Ouija board under your arm and think this is a nice antique-looking board, the first thing you would need to do from a spiritual perspective is to clear it, really, make sure there's nothing attached. Otherwise, you've already inherited a pretty big problem that you're bringing back into your home before you've started. And that's before you've started to actually investigate using it and going down that line as well, really.
So it's a big thing. It is something that comes up in our clearings fairly regularly, and it is a topic that we wanted to cover very briefly. Today, we are only sort of doing half an hour. We have another meeting to get into at 5 o'clock, which is our day 3 of a 3-day SRA mastery workshop. So we've already done the two chats with people that want to be practitioners with us, and we've got our 3rd day as well. So lots of things happening. We've got our approval through for the USA. That's all happening 14th to 18th. Anybody that's interested in coming out and joining us in Ithaca, we still have a few places left. Just message the Academy on contact@spiritreleaseacademy.com, and we'll see where those conversations go as well. And we'll try and help you as much as we possibly can to get you there.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fun. Both looking forward to it. But we're both quite surprised that the US let us in, actually. After we applied for Estes, we both sat back and breathed out and wondered what would happen there, because obviously there's quite a lot of stories or horror stories about people that haven't been given access to go into the US, but obviously they realised that we're pretty benign, so that was good. So we're quite looking forward to a little trip to New York, or the New York areas, certainly in the next 4 weeks. In fact, it's coming around quite fast now. I think when we talk about these things and we kind of put dates in the diary, it seems like a long way off, and then of course we don't really talk about it too much. But then as it starts to get closer, you start to realise it is actually kind of creeping up quite quickly, and we need to prep and get things in place. And obviously we've got a lot of organisational things to do with the actual people that we're working with, the place that we're staying, the training location and venue, that kind of thing. So there's lots of cogs that kind of need to turn in the background, really, to kind of organise these things. I think it's one of those things from our perspective as well, is that the academy's growing so quickly. There's a lot of people behind the scenes that you don't get to hear about, and we'll probably try and drag some of those people onto these calls.
Yeah, just so you can meet the whole team, one way or another. But yeah, this time next month we're in the US.
Yeah, right.
So we'll be out there. So we've prepared a long list of I's to dot and T's to cross, and now we're at the stage of actually dotting those I's and crossing those T's. So we have a wonderful residence where we're going to be conducting the training, which is about 10 to 15 minutes outside of Ithaca. So people are staying in hotels in Ithaca. We have a private group for them where they're arranging like car sharing for students to go up to the training every day. But it is only 10 minutes away, and we can work any issue out. So if people can get to the hotels, we can work everything else out. So we're there Monday to Friday. We've got holistic entertainment, I think is the phrase.
Not a Ouija board.
Not a Ouija board. Yeah, not a Ouija board. Yeah, we don't want to bring work back into it in that sense. But Tuesday and Wednesday, we've got holistic entertainment for our students to enjoy, not to work. It's not a workshop. It's an evening where they can relax and enjoy other practitioners working around them. And that's Tuesday and Wednesday. Monday night is just for them to settle down and get their grounding. And then Thursday night, we're all going to go out for a lovely meal and have a nice end of week kind of celebratory meal. And then the Friday, that will be day 5. Day 5 where we do intense work and then depart on our own way, and the students fulfilling their criteria to become practitioners with the academy, which is always really exciting, watching their journeys.
Yeah, I think it's really cool as well, because it's good for the existing practitioners, because of course we need more mediums primarily, and obviously facilitators to connect and catch up. So as this kind of group gets bigger, there are more options for more people to work with each other, and of course in different time zones as well. So as SRA starts to grow and get bigger and we can start to mature a bit, then it makes it very interesting and quite exciting from a practitioner perspective, because suddenly there's so many more people you can work with, which of course means that you can cover more clients and do more things, which is obviously the only way that we want to go.
Yeah. So lots of things happening. So we hope that you've enjoyed the brief podcast today, but sometimes small is beautiful.
When's that?
So we hope you've enjoyed the podcast. Ouija boards, just know what you're doing if you're going to get involved in them, same as any spirit communication tool. And we're going to wish you well. Have a lovely afternoon, morning, evening, nighttime, day, wherever you are in the world. And we look forward to speaking to you soon.
Okay, bye folks.